This is the Brisbane Lions Fancast with Dom Fay and Michael Whiting.
Yes, this is a special edition of the Fancast, just like last week, but this week a little more special edition, Mike, because in a few minutes we'll be joined by General Manager of Footy Operations at the club, Dean Warren. Plenty to run by Dean today on the show.
Should be good, shouldn't it?
Yeah, one of the more interesting interviews we've had this year, I think.
We'll see. We'll see what Dean's prepared to say and what he can tell us, I suppose, because a lot of, as we touched on last week, a lot of speculation for a team that's just been knocked out a week or a week and a half ago now, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Before we get to that, quick wrap-up of the club champs. Was great to see Tom Rockcliffe go away with the award. I think we all thought he deserved it.
Maybe a fraction closer than we thought.
I think probably the big surprise of the night came just, I think it was after round 16 when sitting in second place was Justin Clark, who, I personally thought he had a strong end to the year, but not as strong a start to the year. The coaches obviously saw it a different way, but you know, we're talking about a guy who I know some journos had written was a fringe player, not you, Mike, but some had written was a fringe player.
Count me out of that.
Yeah, absolutely no, but some had written that he was a fringe player midway through the year. And, you know, at that stage, he's second in the best and fairest. Now, I think it's completely deserved. He didn't have the best start to the year, but I think he is an underrated player at the club.
Absolutely. And I was with you. I think he's first, like all of the defenders, I thought nearly all of that back six, their first 5 or 6 weeks was quite poor. And maybe that's because the ball was going down there so often, they were exposed a lot more often. But I thought Justin fell into that bracket where his first 6 weeks was quite average. But he did turn it around, and I'm pretty sure we would have mentioned it on this show as the season wore on, that as the team got better, he certainly got better as well. And let's not forget that he's very, very young to be playing key position. And generally, Justin Lepich threw him the toughest challenge. And when he was on this show with us, sort of mid to late season, I think it was, he said he loved that challenge of playing against the best forward and that he had loved doing his homework early in the week on who he was going to play against. So let's not forget how inexperienced he is. And he did a great job, all things considered. But yeah, to be so high was quite a surprise, but it shows how highly valued he is by the coaching staff in the club. Yeah, absolutely. And one other point to touch on before we get to Dean Warren, because it happened just after our Fancast went up last week, I believe. Louis Taylor was lucky enough, well, not lucky enough, he deserved it fully to take home the Rising Star for 2014. We've spoken about it a lot in the build-up. I think at one stage I made the claim that we would lead the outrage if he didn't win. Thankfully, we can, put down your pitchforks, guys, because Louis Taylor did win the award, 1 vote over Marcus Bontempelli, and really just great for Louis, great for the club. Yeah, pretty much almost how we thought, wasn't it? We thought it was going to be neck and neck between Taylor and Bontempelli, and to a lesser extent Luke McDonald. And it panned out that way, obviously. 1 vote, it's the tightest count in the Rising Stars history, so couldn't be happier for him. We've all, particularly after the event last Wednesday, we heard about his backstory a million times, and we'd sort of already known it, being up here in Brisbane and having followed his journey not only in the lead up to the draft, but once he was drafted and then this year. So thoroughly deserved for a half forward to be so consistent in his first year with almost no pre-season was an amazing effort from Louis. And I guess that's just something. It's good news for the club, and it's another good face for the club, I think, to get out there amongst the public next year. There's not, since the retirement of Jonathan Brown and Simon Black, there's not too many sort of personality players is there at the club that the club can sort of hang their marketing on and hang their hat on, but Louis is definitely one of those, and we'll hope to see a lot more of him next year. And he's going to have a little bit of a target on his head next year, so it'll get tougher for him, I think. That just about, I think, though, wraps up the on-field talk for the year, and it's time now to delve straight into the off-field talk with Dean Warren, General Manager of Footy Operations, after this on the Fancast.
The best way to keep track of everything Lions is to head to lions.com.au. It's the first place to find the latest Lions news and videos, get the lowdown on upcoming games, results and player stats. There's also great ways to interact with live chats, downloads and Player of the Year voting updates. And with a social media hub, you can connect with all the Lions social media activity. Lions.com.au. Everything Lions, all in one place.
Joining us on the Fancast today is the General Manager of Footy Operations at the club, Dean Warren. Thanks for joining us today, Dean.
My pleasure, fellas.
Now, just to start it off, heading into the off-season, Dean, I guess when Rob Kerr left earlier in the year, you and Peter Schwab kind of took over his roles. Just for a bit of clarification, can you let us know exactly what you're in charge of and what he's in charge of in that way?
Yeah, well, Peter's obviously moved from our coaching department now into our recruiting area. So Peter effectively is our list manager. So So Swabby now looks after our talent acquisition and retention. So, and then my role hasn't changed a great deal, other than I'm now doing player contracting as well as my duties from previously. So, so really, we've more so just moved Peter out of the coaching area into the talent acquisition area.
Thanks for joining us today, Dean. We know we're speaking to you from Noosa today. I think you're on the golf course, so it's great that you could take some time out for us today.
Oh, no, we're actually up in Noosa with a 3-day planning meeting. So we hopefully by the end of Wednesday we'll have the pre-season planning all out of the way and done with before most of the football department then take a well-deserved break.
Yeah, they sure is a well-deserved break. We'll hit you with, I guess, a couple of the topical ones straight away, Dean. I guess Paddy Ryder's a name that keeps popping up over the past week or so. Guess what can you tell us about that? Has Paddy's management spoken to the club yet?
Yeah, look, he has. Paul Connors has spoken to us and has obviously said that Paddy Ryder isn't completely happy at Essendon. Obviously, Paddy's contracted though, and my understanding is Paddy and Essendon we're going to sit down at the end of the season, which they'll probably do this week or next, and work through his future at Essendon. But our understanding that if they can't resolve some of the concerns that he may have, that he may look to move, and our understanding is that he'd like to move north. So and obviously our understanding is that potentially Brisbane may be his preferred club if that was indeed the case.
If it does go ahead, obviously it's a situation, a bit of a unique one, where he's come to you and has maybe nominated Brisbane as his preferred destination. It's not exactly the kind of situation where you've gone out and pursued a player and will pay top price. There's been a lot of talk about, I guess, what Brisbane would pay, and obviously that's really down for the future. But would you say that if he is available, the club is very keen to get him?
Oh, absolutely. Well, he's an All-Australian player, very, very talented. So if he was indeed interested in moving or wanting to move, and obviously a deal could be done. As I said, he's contracted with Essendon at the moment. So, there's a fair few things that need to work themselves out before that could actually happen. But at this point, we would be silly not to explore it, because he's an exceptional player, if indeed that he was going to move.
Just purely on a playing front, Dean, I don't know whether you can, I'm sure you've spoken to Justin Lepich about this, but does that make the club a little top-heavy with forward rucks or ruck forwards? We've already, of course, got Matthew Lawnberger under contract and Stephen Martin's just been recontracted. Is there any concern there that, if Paddy does choose to come to Brisbane and the cards fall and he does sort of end up here, is there any sort of concern that there might be a bit top-heavy there?
Oh, it's probably how we fit them all in the same team, I suppose. It's probably a bit. We've looked at, obviously, Trent West is out for probably the majority of next year as well with his knee reconstruction. And obviously, Louis in the past hasn't had a lot of resilience either. So, I think sometimes it's important to have a number of different options on your list. Steph Martin's such a quality athlete that he can play in the ruck and play forward, as you would have seen against Geelong in round 23 as well. We sort of played him as an extra midfielder. So, he's an exceptional talent. So I think those sort of guys, and Ryder's an exceptional athlete as well that can play, play very good footy forward. So they do give you a lot of flexibility. I think that's what those sort of tools do. They're not the traditional tools, if you like, or ruckman type. They've got the flexibility to play a number of different roles for us.
The other player who there has been a lot of talk about is Dane Beams from Collingwood. Now, he's, I believe, managed also by Paul Connors. Have you chatted to Connors at all about Dane Beams?
No, not at this point. Obviously, Dane's contracted as well. So, again, when he's out of contract, he's one that you'd like to probably have a chat to. But at this point, he's in contract with Collingwood next year again. And, don't worry, we'll ask Collingwood the question. But at this stage, he's contracted. So, yeah.
So, Dean, I guess speculation, is it just that at the moment? Is it a little bit of a bit of speculation with not a lot of substance?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Dane being a Queenslander, obviously with Clay playing at our footy club as well, there's no doubt that Dane Beam's an exceptional player. So, if indeed he was looking for a change or whatever, we would be certainly keen on his services. So we'll just see how things progress.
obviously to get a player like a Dane Beams, if he was on the table, or even Paddy Ryder in some instances, you have to give something up. And there has already been some talk in the media of potential Lions players on the trade table. Obviously, it's all speculation at this stage, but would you say that all players at the club who are contracted at the moment will be at the club next year, or do you have to leave a bit of space to maybe move around if you have to with some of those players?
Look, as I say, it's all speculation at this point in time. We haven't, until you really know who's actually on the table, in relation from other clubs, you don't, you obviously got to try to get a deal done, and that deal has got to satisfy both parties. So, I don't really want to speculate at the moment because it's exactly what it would be, just speculation.
Dino, Greg Swan obviously put on the table a couple of weeks ago that there's a lot of room in the salary cap, and I don't think that's any surprise to anyone.
No.
Also that you're looking for some more mature players, which is, I guess, where the Paddy Ryder fits in, and I guess where the Dane Beams speculation may have started from. How imperative is it to get a more experienced player for this coming season? Are you really desperate to get someone for this coming season, or are you prepared to wait depending on how
certainly not desperate, Michael. I think it's more so making sure that if we have got room in our cap, but it's for the right person and the right player. We're not interested in bringing in, B grade talent, C grade talent. They've got to be exceptional talent for us to bring us in, bring them in. So they've got to make us better. So we're not going to rush. It's got to be the right person. So I think that's the most critical element to it. Sorry, mate, just they're yelling at me. I've got to have another shot.
Yeah, have a hit.
Sorry, boys.
That's all right, no worries.
I'm playing with the senior coach, Matty Francis and Manny Lynch, and they're just getting stuck into me.
Who's going the best at the moment?
Oh, no, well, we're playing 2-ball best ball. So it's Matty Francis and I against Justin Leppage and Manny Lynch. So I think Manny Francis and I are up, though. So we're going okay.
Good stuff. Okay. So I'll just ask that question again. I was just going to ask, obviously there has been Beams and Ryder speculated about, and it is very early in September, so obviously we're not going to ask for any names or anything, but are there any other players from other clubs on the club's radar for potential trades this year, or would you say that outside of those two, you're pretty much certainly going to focus on the draft instead? Yeah, we'll probably focus on the draft. Outside of, those two, as I said, they're both contracted players, so there's only just speculation with those at the moment of whether they would be interested in moving or not. But outside of that, we've had a pretty extensive watch list over the course of the year. But there's really not a lot of other players out within that group that would be really looking to bring in. So, as I said, they've got to be the right player, got to be in the right age demographic as well for us. And it's all about, as I say, making sure we bring the right talent into the group. And we're really keen on the right age profile as well because of the age of our list. So we'd be looking at bringing in some exceptional talent in that sort of mid-20s age group to bolster our group. As you would have seen this year, we've had 10 kids debut, and, they were, all exceptional young talent. So, we think we just add a bit more to that age demographic of that mid-20s. I think it stands in really good stead.
Dean, I spoke to you, I think it was last Friday for a story
Michael
for the...
Whiting, mate, so. Here's Leper. I need to have a pat.
Yeah.
Michael.
Leper, how are you?
Mate, you're really interrupting our game of golf. Do you know that?
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know that. It's just...
you can... This is end of season time, plan for next year and play golf and all that sort of stuff.
This is for your fans, mate. This is for the podcast for your fans,
I love your podcast. I love it.
Oh,
great
good.
Great interview with Steph Martin too. That was terrific.
How good was he?
Yeah, he was brilliant, isn't he?
He's a very well-spoken man.
Dino's lining up his putt and he's missed.
Oh, no. How are you going, Leper? You want to give the fans anything, Leper? We got you.
I love the fans. Great support this year. So we're back better than ever next year. So.
Terrific.
I'll put Dino back on.
Amazing. Thanks, Leper.
Sorry, mate.
That's okay. I told him it was for the fans, so he could just...
right, okay.
So, Dean, I spoke to you for a story last Friday for the website, which amazingly some people might not have read, about Daniel Merritt. There was a couple of reports, and a couple of reporters went with it quite strongly, that he was going to be shopped around by the club. Can you please, I guess, straighten that up and tell us where Daniel's at? Yeah,
look, as I spoke to you last week, Michael, I was quite furious, really, just the way that the Australian had reported that. Obviously, at this time of year, having discussions with all clubs about their list and where they see their players and all that sort of stuff. And, I don't know why the Australians singled out Daniel Merritt. I mean, Daniel's contracted for the next 2 years. he's one of the older statesmen in our club. He's in our leadership group. So, there's no, we had no discussions with any club on Daniel Merritt. So I was quite, as I said to you last week, really annoyed on certainly the headline as well as even the content of the article. So, I can clarify that, no, we haven't been shopping Daniel Merritt around whatsoever.
So he will be at the club next year?
Yes,
yep.
Yes.
Good to hear. Now, I believe that from what I've seen, only Jack Crisp and Matt Maguire are uncontracted for next year unless we've missed something. How likely are both of them to stay at the club?
Yeah, look, I'm at this stage just in starting negotiations with their managers. So, we'll extend their contracts for next year as well. So,
you want to keep them both?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's just we got to the end of the year, and they both. Jack came into the team late and ended up playing some pretty good footy towards the end of the year. So, and Matty Maguire, one thing Matty has done is he's probably had 1 year contracts probably for the last 5 or 6 years. So, and he performs well that way. So, I've spoken to both of their managers and we'll progress with extending their contracts for 2015 shortly.
A credit to both of those guys, Dean, because I imagine not so long ago they weren't commanding a senior spot for a start and being out of contract. That obviously leads you to think that they may not be in the future plans, but the way they came in and were able to contribute, you must have been delighted, and obviously
certainly Matt Maguire. I mean, he's been amazing actually in the way that he's actually kept hanging in there. He's had his injury challenges, and but I think with the young defence that we've got with Clark and McStay and Gardner, and I think what Matty Maguire did provide us is that sort of bigger, experienced body down back, an experienced head as well. So I think it just gave our younger guys a bit of confidence. So, he, to his credit, he played some good footy towards the end of, mid to the middle part of the year to the back end of the year. So, and young Jack Crisp obviously played a lot of really good NEAFL footy earlier in the year and then got his opportunity late and showed some really good signs that, he's got a fair way to go yet, but showed some really good signs that he's, continuing to progress and develop, which was really pleasing.
Dean, one from left field a little bit, but it's been in the news the past few days. Mitch Clark's potential return to footy. Is there any chance he could return to the Gabba?
Oh, look, I doubt it. Obviously he's been in Brisbane and I think at this point, I know he's got to work through a lot of things with Melbourne and the AFL Players Association, but we'll certainly follow it with interest because no doubt Mitch Clark's a very talented player. And we'll follow it with interest, but it's unlikely at this point.
And just another one, Dean, you've managed to had a great year of re-signings, particularly your young guys, Louis Taylor, Darcy Gardner, and a whole stack of others, Nick Robertson, etc. One guy, and I guess the one that the fans are keen to hear about is James Aish. We believe that you may be sort of starting negotiations with his manager, despite him still having another 12 months on contract. Have you started talking to his manager, and where do you think that's at the moment?
Yeah, well, I haven't stopped talking to his manager, really, to be really honest with you. I mean, we've obviously been keen to progress Aish's, contract, all the way throughout the year. But now the season's finished, I think, we'll start to, hopefully reopen negotiations or not negotiations, but more so discussions. So, so we'll just let things settle. We'll get our planning out of the way this week and then recommence discussions next week.
Just one to wrap up then, Dean. The Courier Mail reported recently that the Lamberts, Craig and Mel Lambert, could be on their way back to the club in a welfare position. Can you give us any more info on that or any other, I guess, off-field changes? Are there any others planned for this?
Yeah, no, I think that's speculation as well. Obviously, the Lamberts were involved in our footy club previously and they're doing a wonderful job at GWS. I think... I know speaking to David Matthews, their CEO, who's a good friend of mine, probably sees them as probably one of their most important employees down at GWS. And I know Craig and Melissa are contracted again for next year. So knowing Craig Lambert is such a loyal person, I'm pretty sure he'd want to see his contract out at GWS before he entertained moving back to Queensland. But no, look, not at this point, no. But if they ever did want to move back when their obligations finished at GWS and they were looking for a role, we'd certainly consider it. But we've got a terrific welfare group of, led by Manny Lynch and Alicia Whitelock. They do a wonderful job for us, and have done now for a little while. So, we couldn't be happier. And I think it's an area that we need to continue to keep investing in our welfare and retention. obviously with 85% of our list from being interstate, that's an area that hopefully we can continue to invest in and bolster down the track. So, that meant the Lamberts coming back and we could get them involved to complement what we're already doing and the staff we've already got. That'd be great.
And just one more before we let you go, Dean. Danny Daly was confirmed from Richmond to be coming up to join the coaching panel with a few other reshuffles going around with Gary O'Donnell and Shane Woden changing places. Are there any other coaching reshuffles planned, or is that going to be just about it?
There is. I'm not in a position to sort of announce anything just right at the moment, but hopefully in the next couple of days I will. We look at another development coach as well. So, we've bolstered our coaching area again a little bit this year, so that's really encouraging and really pleasing. So, Danny's going to be a great acquisition to our footy club. Obviously worked with Justin at Richmond for a number of years and is very, very good at what he does. So he'll fill a stoppage strategy coach role and do that very, very well. So, we're really pleased to have him on board.
Well, thanks for joining us from the golf course today, Dean, and giving us what you could give us. And we'll let you get back to the golf now, and we'll chat to you soon.
Thanks very much, guys. Ta.
Well, that's all that we have time for on the Fancast today, and for a few weeks, Mike. We've got a few weeks reprieve here, a few weeks break. I mean, knowing us, we'll be talking footy anyway, just not behind the microphones. But yes, a good chat with Dean Moran there, wasn't it?
Yeah, good way to finish our season. I thought it was interesting, wasn't it? That very keen on Paddy Ryder. Quite coy about Dane Beams, but
if you read between the lines there, he was definitely not. He wasn't completely shutting that one down, but I think you mentioned something afterwards. He's trying not to anger Collingwood in some ways, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's fair enough. Like Dean said, Dane Beams is still under contract, so you don't want to start going around talking to players under contract. You could imagine. If we found out that Collingwood was talking to Pierce Hanley or to Matthew, you'd be ropeable as a Brisbane supporter. So, Brisbane does have to keep their beak out of it, which is exactly what they're doing with Dane Beams. So, but in the Paddy Ryder instance, if they want to if those players want to express interest to come here, that's a different kettle of fish. So, interesting to see the way those couple play out.
Yeah, a lot to take out of that interview. One other thing to briefly comment on, we didn't get to run it by Dean, but I'm not sure of the pronunciation of this, but I think it's Kean Hanley.
I'm not even going to try and pronounce. I haven't actually asked anyone. So
I think it's along those lines at least. Pierce Hanley's younger brother is coming to the club, which is great news. He's done an ACL, unfortunately, but he'll have that first year here to, I guess, learn the game and adjust to living in Brisbane before he has to worry about kicking a footy.
Yeah, hard to say it's a blessing, but you can take those positives out of it, can't you? Because I think, as we've seen from Daniel Rich this year with his ACL, I think after a couple of months you're back jogging again, so you're able to mix in with the group and he'll be able to do some of the pre-season training at least. So
yeah. I think the key with Pierce's younger brother is going to be patience, and I hope Lions fans all are aware of that, because as we were just chatting about before, Mike, it took Pierce a long time to come on.
Yeah, you're right. People forget that.
Yeah, and the expectations on this kid are unfairly going to be pretty high.
Yeah, and even, once we learn the pronunciation of his name, that'll give us a head start, but we don't want to keep referring to him as Pierce's younger brother, do we?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's not exactly
But it's pretty exciting. The club isn't going to just sign someone because he's Pierce's younger brother. The young fella can obviously play, and he's got huge raps from the GA over in Ireland, so be very exciting. But like you say, let's just calm down. He's got to overcome an ACL, but then it's going to take a couple of years. So he's a project player, and anything you get out of those guys is a bonus. So what we've got out of Pierce is just an unbelievable bonus. So anything similar to that, and we're going to be laughing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that does wrap up the Fancast for the next few weeks. Unless some big news breaks. We'll put that disclaimer out there. If something big breaks in the next few weeks, we'll come back for a special show, another special edition show.
Special edition with one-on-one with Paddy Ryder, or two-on-one with Paddy Ryder.
Looking forward to that one. Apart from that, though, we'll be back the week sometime after the grand final, probably, talking trades, talking the predictions we made in the first Fancast of the year, which will be fun to look back on.
We will have to look back at those. I can't remember, so it'll be interesting to both of us, won't it? How far on or off we are.
Absolutely.
Off on predicting, but yeah.
We'll see how we go with that. I think I tipped North Melbourne, so I think we're both still
in the fight. What I do remember is that Dom did say North Melbourne for top 4, so they didn't finish there, but if they win this weekend, they're in the last 4. So
that's true. I'll take that. I'll take that.
Did you pick them for top 4 or Premiership?
Premiership. I tipped them for Premiership.
Maybe I tipped them for top 4. I can't remember.
Yeah, we'll see how we go. We'll look back at those predictions, and also I imagine by that stage there will be a lot more off-season player movement to talk about. Looking forward to it, Mike. Busy month or two ahead.
Can't wait.
We'll be back in a few weeks. Until then, this is the Brisbane Lions Fancast.